Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out why Scotland is 94% empty.
This is Scotland, and this is where everyone lives in Scotland. Scotland's population is 5.45 million,
Okay.
yet 70% of them live in this area. Why? Well, let's talk about it, but before we get into it, feel free to subscribe to the channel. This area right here is what we call the central belt of Scotland, which holds around 3 to 3.5 million, which is 63% of Scotland's population. And if we include areas like East Fife, Perth, Dundee, that brings up to nearly 80% of the country.
Hang on. Show me on the map. So right here, okay, Glasgow and Edinburgh. That's what we're talking about, right? This stretch. Zoom in, damn it. Okay. This bit right here, I think, is what we're talking about. Okay.
Perth, Dundee, that brings up to nearly 80% of the country, all within this small strip against the centre of Scotland. But why? There's plenty of other cities within the north of Scotland, such as Aberdeen, with a population of 261,000, which is the hub of all things oil rigs. It was named the oil capital of Europe, not to be confused with the Etihad Stadium. It was voted the safest city within the UK and has one of the lowest employment rates in the UK. Aberdeen was ranked as the third best place to live in the UK, and you're able to buy a castle for the same.
Hang on. I mean, look at this. Okay, this is the top 10 regions to live in the UK, the whole UK. Edinburgh, where the W word, Aberdeen, Bristol, Manchester, Yorkshire, Bedfordshire, Merseyside, Norfolk, Leicestershire. I'm sorry. What does Google say about Aberdeen? Aberdeen is a port city in northeast Scotland where the Dee and Don rivers meet the North Sea. With an offshore petroleum industry, the city is home to an international population. It's also known as the Granite City for its many enduring grey stone buildings. Cool. Let's look at some photos. Walta, a bridge, clock tower. That's a beautiful city. The sunset helps. Art, sunset, a church, art, cathedral, tower. Oh yeah, shipping containers out there. Flowers, castle. Beautiful. It looks great. I think there's an Aberdeen, Texas, isn't there? Is that where Aberdeen is? Aberdeen, Texas. It looks... a lot of blurry photos in Aberdeen, Texas. Not quite the same. Not quite the same as Aberdeen, Scotland. Very different.
Live in the UK, and you're able to buy a castle for the same price as a one-bed flat in London. So what's not to love about Aberdeen? Well, apart from this terrifying amusement park, which I'm sure you've seen online. Well, like we said earlier, it is named the oil capital of Europe, and with such a great title comes great demand. This makes the cost of living in Aberdeen relatively high, mainly due to its high demand for housing, goods and services due to the oil industry. However, salaries in the area are also higher to compensate for this. Also, most notorious with the north of Scotland, the weather. Aberdeen is a coastal city, which makes it prone to many windy days.
It's cold.
And when wintertime comes in Aberdeen, you might only get 6 hours of daylight. The other Scottish city...
Let's look at the weather in Aberdeen. It's currently 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, it's February right now, so...
In the north of Scotland is Inverness, with a population of around 50,000. Inverness dates back to the 6th century, is home of the Loch Ness Monster, and is described as the gateway of Scotland's beautiful Highlands, but yet still is only home to 50,000, which is relatively small for a city, so it can feel pretty lonely and isolated. It doesn't exactly attract the youth of society. Let's not forget, Scotland has over 790 islands, which you'd assume is a lot, but still only 93 of those islands are inhabited, the most populated of which is Harrison Lewis, which...
Hang on. Inverness. Show me on a map. Oh, there's an Inverness, Florida. Inverness. Oh yeah. Beautiful. Waterfall. A river. Architecture. Waterfall. Pond. River. Suspension bridge. Scary. River. Creek. Cathedral. That is beautiful. This would be a great place to film a movie. Wow, look at that. That's beautiful. Flowers. Beautiful. Okay, Inverness. Let's check out Inverness, Florida. How does it compare? Where's Inverness, Florida? I should know that. Oh, near Tampa. Okay. Kind of similar. Just, I don't know if they have Spanish moss in Scotland. Beautiful. Okay. Small town USA. It's the vibe I'm getting. Yeah. Yep. Looks like where I grew up. Okay. What's this now?
Those islands are inhabited, the most populated of which is Harrison Lewis, which habits 21,000 people, which from pictures alone you might mistake as the Bahamas, just with more sheep and a difference of 30 degrees Celsius. Other notable islands include Shetland, Orkney, and probably most notable the Isle of Skye.
790 islands? Hang on. Harrison Lewis. I gotta look that up. Show me photos. A little hobbit house. Oh, wow. That does look like the Bahamas. What? Hang on, where is this on the map? Oh, way up there. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
Other notable islands include Shetland, Orkney, and probably most notable the Isle of Skye, famous for its natural beauty and nature. Across Scotland's inhabited islands, the population is roughly 103,000. So why do more people not live here? Well, firstly, the transportation can be tricky. Some islands require a train, then a bus, then a ferry, then sometimes a flight. Sometimes the ferries are only available once a week. The world's shortest commercial flight actually exists here, a flight between Westray and Papa Westray, which lasts 90 seconds in full, which is a tourist attraction in itself. But it's hard to ignore the natural beauty of these islands. Not only is getting there hard, but so is leaving. Due to the limited housing, the cost of living can be quite expensive. The internet isn't the best, there's limited education, and for kids, there's very little to do. These are small communities that are landlocked, and these issues persist in similar communities. The Outer Hebrides in 1901 had a population of around 46,000, and by 2001, it had fallen to 26,000, a staggering 43% decrease. Researchers predict it could fall to 20,000 by 2050, which would be a shame considering its natural beauty. I reckon if Scotland planted some palm trees and added some heaters and started calling the Isle of Barra the Bahamas, maybe some American tourists could save these islands.
Probably.
Now back to
Hang on. The Isle of Barra. Shall we on a rock? Isle of Barra. Oh, it's way down there. Oh, it's not way down there, but compared to where I was just, it is. Okay, yeah. Clear water. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I know he's joking about getting American tourists to go there by renaming it, but I do think that would work. I really do.
calling the Isle of Barra the Bahamas, maybe some American tourists could save these islands. Now back to mainland Scotland. Why is the rest of it empty? Well, we've talked about this issue before in why the Romans and Vikings weren't able to fully conquer Scotland. And one of the biggest issues is the terrain. 60% of Scotland is mountainous terrain, making it the UK's biggest wildlife habitat. The Scottish Highlands are actually the same mountain range as the Appalachian Range in America. These mountains were once connected as the Central Pangaean Mountains, the top 20 tallest mountains in the UK.
What? That's blowing my mind. That's where I grew up, down here. I grew up down here. You know what's interesting? I'm realizing now too, the sand on the beaches is very similar. Because here in North Florida, there's a lot of white sand beaches with the emerald green water. And it looks exactly like those Bahama-looking beaches. The sand must be the same kind of rock, maybe? Or the same age? Because it looks exactly the same. Except I feel like the mountains in Scotland are more rigid. The Appalachian Mountains are more smoothed over. They've been eroded more. Interesting.
Pangaean Mountains. The top 20 tallest mountains in the UK are, believe it or not, all in Scotland, which makes this
believe
area
that.
extremely mountainous in comparison to England and Wales. But why do very few people live in the Scottish mountains? The combination of lack of housing, educational facilities and workplaces, functional two-way roads make it a difficult place to
That'll
live.
do it.
Many people who do live in these lands are self-sustaining, growing their own food and providing their own power and electricity.
Oh,
and also,
gosh.
22% of the population is over 65 years old, who don't necessarily need work opportunities in these areas.
Interesting. These are hardy people. These are self-sufficient people with strong constitutions.
Around 200,000 people live in the Scottish Highlands, which is about 100,000 less than how many people lived there 100 to 200 years ago. The estimated population in the 18th and 19th century was roughly 300,000, which made a lot more sense given the state of the war Scotland has faced in the last few hundred years. Scotland's terrain almost provided a blanket of safety from invasions from many fierce foes, such as the Vikings, the Romans, and most consistently, the English. Feel free to watch these two videos for more explanation on that. The Highlands were a popular home of the Scottish clans. One of the biggest reasons due to the
Wait, what? Scottish clans. Mackenzie. I've met some of them. Gordon. I've met a Gordon. McPherson. Farquharson. Ogilvy. Lindsay. Keith. Keith. Y'all, that's where Keith is from. Leslie. More Ogilvy. Fraser. Hey. Keith. More Keith. Grant. Chisholm. Cameron. McDonald. McKinnon. McLean. Campbell. I recognize some of these names, y'all.
clans. One of the biggest reasons due to the decrease in population among the Highlands was an event in the 18th to 19th century called the Highland Clearances, the forced eviction of inhabitants of the Highlands and Western Islands of Scotland. This removal of people cleared the land primarily to allow for the introduction of sheep pastoralism. The Highland Clearances resulted in the destruction of the Scottish clans. This was after the Jacobite Rebellion, which resulted in the Battle of Culloden on April 16, 1746, during which thousands of Highlanders were killed. If you look at climate maps for Scotland,
Hang on.
despite
I'm sorry, what? To make room for sheep?
one of the biggest reasons due to the decrease in population among the Highlands was an event in the 18th to 19th century called the Highland Clearances.
The Highland Clearances? That sounds like ethnic cleansing. The Highland Clearances. Tell me more. The evictions of a significant number of tenants in the Scottish Highlands and Islands, mostly in two phases from 1750 to 1860. The first phase resulted from agricultural improvement driven by the need for landlords to increase their income. Many had substantial debts, with actual or potential bankruptcy being a large part of the story of the clearances. Okay, so the landowners wanted more money. Oh, okay, so I guess before this, sheep were just let to graze wherever, but after this, the landowners enclosed their land and charged money for that sort of stuff, and evicted people that were just kind of living there. I think that's, I'm not reading this whole thing, but I think that's what Oh, the clan chiefs began to think of themselves as commercial landlords rather than patriarchs of the people, a process that arguably started with the statutes of Iona. So these landlords, these lords of the land, started charging the people who were living on their land. I mean, I guess that it was like evolution into modern times, I guess. The Industrial Revolution presented an increased demand for food. Land came to be seen as an asset to meet this need and as a source of profit rather than a means of support for its resident population.
Clearances, the forced eviction of inhabitants of the Highlands and Western Islands of Scotland. This removal of people cleared the land primarily to allow for the introduction of sheep pastoralism. The Highland Clearances resulted in the destruction of the Scottish clans. This was after the Jacobite Rebellion, which resulted in the Battle of Culloden on April 16, 1746, during which thousands of Highlanders were killed. If you look at climate maps for Scotland, despite the difference only being a matter of a car journey, due to the terrain, a few hours' drive can sometimes mean a drastic change in temperature. So many Highlanders will be envious of somewhere only a few hours away being much hotter. The only benefit the Highlands have over the rest of mainland Scotland is their natural beauty and isolation.
Yeah. Oh
Many
my
celebrities
God.
have houses in the Highlands, such as Billy Connolly, Paul McCartney and Bob Dylan, the esteemed folk singer who once sang and described that his heart's in the Highlands. The Highlands seem almost a safe haven for celebrities and retired pensioners. Scotland also do a fantastic job of preserving their natural beauty. Scotland's iconic Loch Lomond, the biggest lake by surface area in the UK, came under threat a few years ago when Flamingo Land launched a plan to build a theme park at this iconic natural site. The Scottish population were outraged and launched a petition for them to withdraw their offer, which they did, only for 2 years later for Flamingo Land to come back with a new plan. Scottish Greens have launched another petition, so if you are interested in standing up to this, I'll add the link into the description so we can save Loch Lomond together. So, despite there being room...
Wait, there are flamingos there? Really? Flamingo Land. Is that just the name of it? Or are there actually flamingos? Oh, this is like a water park and monorail. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a good place for a theme park, does it? Or an amusement park, whatever it's called. Flamingo Land is a theme park and zoo in Yorkshire that has operated since the 1950s. In 2018, the company behind the park, Flamingo Land Limited, clever name, submitted proposals for a tourist development at Loch Lomond, including a hotel, craft brewery, and leisure center. So, the first proposal was withdrawn because of opposition from the locals, but they returned in 2020 with an updated £40 million proposal. More than 150,000 people have signed the petition against the new proposal. It does seem like it's missing the point of the area, right? Natural beauty? Put a water park there? I don't know. What benefits would Flamingo Land bring? 200 jobs. £3 million for the local economy. Improvements to transport. I don't know. I feel like I'm against that, right? Seems bad.
Add the link into the description so we can save Loch Lomond together. So, despite there being room for development within property and tourist attractions, Scotland doesn't necessarily want to, which can't be said for every other country. If this was in America, I could imagine they'd have already built a theme park, a Hooters, and a giant Walmart. Scotland is one of the few countries where some places look exactly the same as they did 500 years ago.
Hey, Flamingo Land, go to Florida. There's a lot of flamingos there. Like, seems like a fit, right? Don't put a turd on Scotland like that. Put your turd in Florida.
And I think that there's some beauty in that. So, Scotland is rather empty in some areas, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Thanks for watching today's video, and if you want to watch another, click here on the screen.
Thanks, y'all. Y'all be sure to go to FactVoyage and like and subscribe. And check out my other reaction channel, JJL Reacts Music, where I react to music. So that's why Scotland is 94% empty. Terrain. This video could have been 3 seconds long. Terrain. Over. Wow. It really is gorgeous. Some of the B-roll in this, I wanted to stop and just look at it, but oh, that's Loch Ness, okay. See, y'all, we're connected. Or we were. Our land was. This was really interesting. Scotland is a dynamic place. Should be proud of it. I would love to go sometime. Well, y'all, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.